we should be kicking.
Okay. And then, Chad, we always give it a little bit for people to join in before we get started up. So,
you want me to say a prayer real quick?
We may need that, especially with the Delaney mood he's in. Yeah. All right, it's on. So
cranky.
He's in. Yeah. All right, it's on. So, okay. So now we wait and see here. Like I said, give it a little time for people to join in.
There we go.
Yep, I think we're up and running. All right.
So we got to about a dozen.
Okay.
I thought we were going to be. I thought we were going to be 1,000.
Yeah, you never know how things are going to go. I mean, it can go crazy. But all right, so we got some people watching. Welcome everybody to your weekly broadcast of the Behind the Mic show. Thanks for joining us. We got a special guest tonight, which we'll introduce here in a little bit. A Flora alum, a Flora native, homegrown boy doing well for himself. But before we get too started, boy, look at that ring. God, that's beautiful. But before we get too started, I want to point out and give kind of a disclaimer tonight that Brian Delaney, co-host of the show, is probably a good 3 bourbons deep at this point, and Michigan's getting blown out by about 30 by Illinois. So I want to give a precursor to this show that if you are, have family sitting around, you might want to move them to another room or something like that, because I don't know where this is going to go. But in saying that, with me as always, week in, week out, with the Michigan Sucks in the background, Brian Delaney, how are you doing this evening so far?
I've been better.
Okay.
Got home from work and watched this game.
Yeah.
Steaming pile of shit. Michigan, a tradition like no other. Just a disappointment. If it's on the grass or the hard court, they'll do it to you. I can see them losing out the next 2-3 games and losing the title just in epic Michigan fashion.
Perfect. All right. So consistency is key, I guess, whenever we do that. But, it's life. And, hey, it's one game, Delaney. It's one game. We'll see what the tournament. Yeah.
Hey, at least it's not football. At least it's not football season.
Right.
Well, that's just another thing. We're a basketball school, right?
Right.
Actually, I hear you guys are good at gymnastics too.
There you go. Go for that.
So
women's softball. I might as well watch something they actually compete in.
Perfect.
Do well in.
Love it.
Sports.
Yeah, so those of you that are, familiar with Brian Delaney, just be prepared. It might be a hell of a night. And as always, again, every week in, week out, our tech nerd, the man with the head that's launched 1,000 ships, Lane Pie. Brian Lane, how are you doing this week, Lane Daddy?
Doing great. Look, it's the sun's out. We got some sunshine. I'm feeling the vibe. I mean, everything is going better. The weather's improving. I'm floating on cloud 9 because I'm not really into basketball, and so I just kind of go by every day. And as long as work's a good day, I think I have a good day. So no, I'm doing great. Looking forward to good weather, getting outside, getting some more of that sunshine, getting some of that exercise in. Really enjoying it. So.
Outstanding. So tonight, folks,
I'm not a basketball guy anymore either.
Yeah. So tonight, folks, you get the yin and the yang. So we got Mr. Negativity, Mr. Positivity. It's going to work out well. And this week, as we had advertised, we've got once again a Florida native, a small town boy, done big, doing good things, with us all the way from Indianapolis, Indiana, Mr. Chad Graham. Chad Graham, how are you doing this fine evening? I see you sitting by a fire, cozy.
I'm doing great. This is comfortable. This is cozy. I'm just soaking it all in.
Yeah,
I couldn't wait to talk to you guys tonight, actually.
I know. And folks, we've tried for a while, but it's kind of been a busy NFL season, which Chad's going to talk about. So during the season, not really possible to get him on. A lot of things going on, especially with the COVID year and all that. But we do thank him for making the time tonight. This should be a lot of fun. And Chad is not just a physical therapist. He's not just a medical consultant for the Colts. But we will dive into whenever he won Mr. EIU a long time ago when he had guns. Look at him now. Oh, my God, yeah. But we're going to talk about that, what it took as well. In fact, whenever I mentioned it, when we were talking before the show earlier in the week and last week, he's like, oh, my God, I forgot all about that. I'm like, I'd have that medallion around my neck everywhere I went. Nobody would have forgotten about that if I'd have won something like that.
There was a time Vinatieri was at my office, and I was talking to him about that, and he's like, oh man, you should have the trophy. I said, and I turned around and I pulled it out from under my desk. And so I have a few of those moments,
It's nice to keep it handy. Absolutely. So Chad, and As always, every time we start the show, I want to thank our sponsor, North Wayne Insurance, Mr. Bill Atwood. So, and we're talking about physical therapy tonight. You got to have good insurance so you get the good physical therapy like Chad provides. So make sure and contact Bill for all your insurance needs. He's our sponsor, still with us. For some reason, he's hanging in there week to week. After this show tonight, and Delaney, it's hard to tell. Oh, I'm frozen, aren't I?
Yeah.
Nope, you're good.
No, you're fine.
Hey, I have to give a shout out to Bill Atwood. He did a nice Facebook post for my parents' anniversary. So shout out to them. Also shout out to the parents for their anniversary on March 1st. So, it's amazing. They're an amazing couple. So again, thank you, Bill Atwood, for noticing that and putting it on Facebook. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, yes. And you know what? I told this to Lane. He probably thought I was joking, but as you travel through this life, and like me, I'm a 0 for 2 veteran of the marriage wars, and it's just not my thing. But people would say, like, God, you ever going to do it again? You're going to go for the third one? I said, you know what? I said, the only married couple I've ever really seen that seem to actually really like each other back where I'm from are the Hurlemans. Phil and Brad and John's mom and dad and Katie and all that. I said, those two forever. I said, and then the Lanes. I said, every time you see them in town, they're still sitting right beside each other in the truck like they're teenagers. They actually act like they like each other. I said, I don't know where you find that, but boy, you find me that might be a possibility. But
well, I don't know what's more impressive, that or the fact that Lane knows when his parents' anniversary is.
He's a good boy. He's a good boy. He's raised right. Yeah,
Reminders on the phone. Reminders on the phone.
There you go. Whatever.
We should have them on. Find out what their source is. Maybe they just make out a lot. Maybe that's the source.
Ooh.
Just keep making out like you're 16.
That's it. Date till you die. That's it. Right. Yeah. So, yep. Yeah, you can't go wrong with that. So, in saying that, we'll go ahead and get this wonderful interview started with Chad. So much information. Any questions you guys have out there, make sure and chime in. We'd love to hear from people. Questions you maybe have about physical therapy, something like that. Maybe you got an ailment or something. Maybe Chad can guide you in the right direction on that. And he's not here necessarily to work, but he's quite knowledgeable about many things. So Chad, growing up in Florida, of course, played football. I believe you were a senior when I was a freshman. Is that right, boys? Seems like Chad was in that.
Am I that old? I'm 47. How old are you?
Yeah, I'm 43, getting ready to be 44. So, yeah, I believe that's right. That awesome senior group that I remember, my God, with Randy Ellis and Sean McKinney and Scott.
Well, now he's frozen. So now we'll come back in. So you were part of that great 92 team. With
Scott Harmon running the wishbone with me and Scott Harmon and Randy Ellis. I was kind of the sleeper. Nobody expected me to ever get the ball. So when I got it, it was like nobody covered me. So I had a few yards to run. So I will point out, it was either my junior or senior year. I tell this to some of the players sometimes. I led the team in receiving yards for the season with 70 yards.
Nice.
It's not like we were a run heavy team or anything. So.
Yeah, not at all.
No,
right.
not
at all. Yeah, but you took care of some of the punting duties as well, did you not?
I did. I punted, and so I actually like that part of it. But
And in fact, Coach Martin, whenever I was talking to him today, he goes, Chad was another one of those guys that makes your job real easy when you're talking about a transitional class to have success. All of a sudden he goes, that class was something special. I'm like, yeah, when you walk in with a group of athletes like that, good Lord, what a team. What a team. But
smart athletes too.
Oh boy, very intelligent. Yeah. Oh yeah.
I like to tell people I was in the top 50 in my class. They don't know that there's only 100 or 90 or something.
That's right. Yeah. But there's no shame in that with that group. That's for sure.
No kidding. Right.
Good Lord. Good Lord. So Chad, you obviously going from Florida, played some sports as well. Chad was also whenever I was a freshman, you walk in scared to death, like, oh my God, these guys going to beat me up. Who knows what's going to happen. We have to push pennies, stuff like that. Chad was always super nice, always help you.
I was 140 pounds. I wasn't gonna scare you.
Nevertheless, I was 110. I think at the time when you were a senior. It doesn't matter. Like, oh God, is this the one is this the day?
I think I was 160, but I probably said 170. Maybe I don't know.
You always elevate the numbers, height and weight in high school, and then as you get older, you try to lower the weight, but it just doesn't work that way. The height lowers on its own, but the weight seems to go up. But no, always a good dude. So always appreciated that as well. And him and Scott Warren, I just remember the comedy that you would see day in and day out of those two running around the halls. It's like, good God. But anyway.
My best story with Scott was I was playing strong safety. He was playing free safety. And, we called Lou and Rip for left and right for strong side. And and we switched sides up, and Scott broke his leg on the next play. So I just always remember that.
Yeah, a great memory from football for everyone. A great memory. So in saying that, obviously, you did well at Flora, but then you go on and what got you into this field? What really made you want to get into the physical therapy field? So you went to Eastern, I assume, straight out of school, correct?
I went to Eastern. I mean, when I was in Flora, we didn't have a whole lot of money growing up the way I did. And so I would clean the gym to pay for my membership. And I think, Mabel, of course, loved that, watching me down there scrubbing everything. But anyhow, so I cleaned the gym. I got into it by doing that. And then, so when I went to Eastern, I was running their training program there. So I was a supervisor of the weights. Sorry, I've had a little drink. Supervisor of the weights, exercise and training, and got into personal training and that kind of thing. So then from there, I went to Chicago. In Chicago, I was working with one of the Bear sports doctors up there at a place called Multiplex. So the Bulls practiced there before they moved to the Berto Center. So a lot of the 85 Bears would come in and out of there. For me, it was really fascinating. And so that was my first taste of professional sports so I'd gone out with this girl one time and from the club, and great looking girl, Angie. And the next day I'm in the club and Angie's in there, and I walk up and I start talking to her, and lo and behold, Richard Dent walks in, and I was like, holy cow, that's Richard Dent, because I grew up a Bears fan. And Richard Dent walks over to her, starts talking to her. She turns around and walks out with him. And I'm standing there like, what the heck just happened? So that was my introduction to professional sports. So, it kind of tarnished my image of the 85 Bears, but we had a lot of those guys, Singletary and a lot of the guys worked out in there. So it was pretty cool. Joe Girardi, before he became manager of the Yankees, he was in there after he played ball. Trying to think of who else was in there. Vince Vaughn's parents would work out in there because he was from Lake Forest, I believe. So
he's a Chicago guy, yeah.
Yeah. So it was pretty cool. So from there, I moved to Indianapolis to work at a place called the National Institute for Fitness and Sport. And I was here to get there. Well, okay, let me back up for a second. We can make this as interesting as we want. I mean,
absolutely.
I was in Chicago. I was going to get fired from the job I was at. So the place I was at had personal trainers, and it was a real kind of, it was kind of a hard place to train. So you normally had to work there for a year and go through their program to be a trainer. And so when I got there, the person in charge said, you know what, you're ready now. I want you to be a trainer. And so they started me training. Well, what happened was I was also doing some in-home training to kind of subsidize my income a little bit. And they found out about it. And long story short, one of the guys kind of threw me under the bus. And so I was like, all right, I had a few words for him and I said, I quit, went back to Eastern Illinois, and I'm thinking, crap, I got nothing. So I get on, I find out about this job in Indianapolis, and a week later I ended up starting here. And so that's where I was. And then as I was training there, things were going really well for me. And I'd gone up to Philadelphia in 99 to see this guy speak. He was with the Broncos, and been with their medical staff. He came in with John Elway. And so, everything he was saying was way over my head. I didn't understand it. And so the next year I saw him in Chicago, learned about what he was doing out in Denver, signed up for his course. And that's when I went through what's called muscle activation techniques, did the training out in Denver, came back to Indy. The place I was working really was worried about liability stuff with it. And so I decided, I was working, one of the vice presidents at the NCAA was saying, okay, you know what, you just need to take this stuff on your own. And so went in the next day, turned in my 2-week notice, and had nothing set up, and away I went. So that's kind of how that got started. And so then my office downtown Indy was about 9 feet wide by about 15 feet long. I had a no waiting room. It was in this old building downtown. And I walk out one day, and the governor's wife is sitting out on the floor waiting to come in with her security detail. And I'm like, man, I got to do something about this. I can't be, it looked really bad. And so about that same time, I got a call from the Pacers, and Donnie Walsh, who was the president of the Pacers, had called and said, "Hey, I want to have you," because he was a client of mine, and so I want to get you in here working with the team, and so he ended up putting me in with the team. So, funny story. I know I'm talking a lot, but my first experience with the Pacers, the trainer that was there had been there for 30 years. And Donnie puts me in there, and he doesn't really know what I do fully. So I kind of get in, thinking I'm kind of like a massage therapist. And so probably the funniest thing that's happened to me, I was in the room with the trainer, and Reggie Miller's laying on the table, and the trainer says, he goes, "Chad, I need you to give Reggie a massage." And I'm like, "Well, I don't do massage." And he's like, No, just go give him a massage. I'm like, "Dude, I don't do massage." And he's just, "You're fine." And I'm like, and I'm new, right? So I have no clue what I'm doing. And Reggie, for whatever reason, when he was on the table, he always used purple towels. That was, everybody else has got the Pacers Gatorade towel. He's got purple towels. I don't know what it's about.
Prince fan.
So, yeah. So he, anyhow, I go over there, and there's another massage therapist working on somebody over there, and there's just lotion, and I look up, and they're sitting there shaking their head, and I just start massaging Reggie Miller. And so, I mean, sweating bullets. I'm scared out of my mind. So, but fortunately, that was the only time I ever had to do it. I was with them the year they had the brawl, and the year after they had the brawl. And so I got to see a lot from, our test, who I really, I liked our test. He just, I liked Ron. But I had Tinsley and Jermaine O'Neal and Reggie. And I mean, there was a lot of those guys. It was interesting. And then I got to see the year after kind of this dismantling of that team. So, so anyhow, so from there, Butler was sending a lot of their athletes to me, and they had a guy who had a sports hernia, and he wasn't getting better. And so they said, "All right, let's see what can happen here if we send him over to you." And so I'm working on him, and a lot of sports hernia in the lower right abdominal area, and he wasn't getting better with traditional treatment. And so I'm looking at it, and everything I was finding was actually weak on his left side. And so I'm looking at it saying, okay, well, his left side is weak, therefore the right side is taking all the stress. And so ended up doing about 3 treatments, and after that he did really well. And so that doctor called me and said, "Hey, I want you to come up and meet one of our therapists up at," because they're all contracted with different hospitals. And he said, "I want you to meet one of our therapists with the hospital," and it ended up being the director of rehab for the Colts. And Delaney, here's it. So when the Colts brought me out, they put me through the ringer. They wanted to find out if this worked. And so one of the most vocal guys on the team was Cato June. And Cato was, this wasn't really an injury, but this was interesting. So every time he would do a lunge, well, when I first got there, they had a trainer that had been there for about 30 years as well. He came from Baltimore. And then the next year they got a new trainer. But anyhow, they said, okay, every time Cato does a lunge and he's got his left leg back and his right leg forward, he has knee pain on that back leg. And they're like, figure it out. And so I go through and I'm treating around the knee, and, gets in the lunge, does a little better. And then I look at the ankle that's in the front on the ground, and it's really unstable, and went over some history with his ankle, stabilized the ankle, put him back in the lunge, and the pain went away. And so that's when Cato and I became pretty close. He went to Napoleon, and we ended up getting it pushed through pretty quick. So, and I started with him that year, and then that was the year we won the Super Bowl. So,
Wow.
So anyhow, so that's kind of how I got started.
Carr, that's what his problem was.
Damn you, Lloyd Carr. Damn you. So Chad, before
Cato was a good dude. I love Cato.
Yeah, he's good. Yeah, he's a good safety. Actually, he was really good.
I remember that name. Yeah, he's a hell of a player.
Actually, he was a linebacker there. Delaney, how many of those bourbons you had?
Yeah.
No, he was a safety. He played safety. Well, he played at both, I guess. He bulked
he
up.
Might have. Yeah, he was a little undersized.
Yeah, but he hit like a freight train, didn't he? I mean, pretty much.
He was a big boy. So, he hit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So before we get to into the Colts and what you do there and all the crazy year that's been. Talk to us about Mr. EIU, you know, because I assume more than likely you got a lot of your initial trainings probably from Smitty. You know, you guys were very tight. You were cleaning the floors there and all that. So, you know, you learned a lot from him. But then to get up to Eastern and do something like that, talk to us about kind of the commitment that you did, the hours that you put into stuff like that, and then to end up actually winning. To anybody that doesn't know that's watching at home, that's basically a bodybuilding contest for, you know, the entire university, and he won it. So talk to us about that process.
I envision it was like Mr. Miyagi. Did he have you wax on, wax off the floor? Next thing you know, you're powerlifting.
Yeah. I mean,
sand the floor.
That was one of those. That was one of those things. Mr. EIU, I thought, well, man, I'll be if I could win this competition, that'll make me happy, right? I mean, I'll be the happiest guy, and then win the competition and realize, oh, that didn't do it for me, and so I went through a little bout of depression after that, just trying to pull myself out of it, thinking that this was what I needed to kind of fulfill me. But yeah, I mean, I lived in the weight room. I mean, I had the Otomics weight shoes, lifting shoes and all the gear. And I really, there was a guy in Decatur named Merle Hall, and Merle used to train Kim Shazevsky, who was Ms. Olympia for a while. He was an NPC trainer. And so Merle helped me a lot with my training and posing. Doesn't hurt maybe that he was the head judge of the competition too. But it was
there it is. I knew it.
There was no bias in there, I'm sure, but I was the best poser, I could tell you, because of the judge. So I knew what the judge liked. Anyhow, no, that was a lot of time and a lot of energy. I mean, I'd wake up in the middle of the night and drink a protein shake and just keep that protein coming in. And I didn't know as much as I do now. I wish I'd known, a little bit more about the diet. I probably got my body fat a little bit too low. It just didn't make me feel as good as I could have been. I got strong training the way Merle had trained me, and with the knowledge that Smitty had given me prior to that. And so it was kind of a neat thing. And so, I mean, my weekends, everybody else is out partying. I'm at the gym, in the aerobics room, flexing and practicing my posing and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was.
Now, is it true? Now, is it true in that competition? We got to know if this is true or not. Clay Reagan said he got second in that, but nobody wants to talk about him winning second place. Is that true? Was Clay Reagan runner-up?
Well, let's just say this. Every year, I'm not going to say that Clay was in that competition, but every year there'd be one of those frat boys, and they'd get in that competition. And I'm pretty sure that they had lost a bet. And so there'd be somebody, I mean, it'd be like Delaney getting up there in a Speedo and all of a sudden just going like this, and everybody's going like just trying not. They're like, is he really serious, or is that because you don't know? And I swear it's like every year is like one of those Sigma Chi guys, or I don't remember what Clay was, but one of those guys would get up there and they'd I think they lost a bet. So he didn't do it. I did go back and judge every year after that for about 20 years until they finally shut the show down. I think I would have remembered that. I'm trying to think.
You were drinking protein shakes. He's drinking Miller Lite in the middle of the night. That's what the difference was, if there was such a thing.
Yeah, well, yeah, he was running with the cool crowd. I was off by myself working out. So
yeah,
he was over there at Ike and Jonesy's or whatever. Yeah, no, he did not do that.
Interesting fact, though, that was not the first competition you competed in, if I remember right, Chad. You competed in one with Beth.
Well, that was the only one I'd like to claim to have competed in. Hey, I had one of them, and I hope Smitty listens to this, where he convinced me to compete right after coming off mono for a year. I looked like I just walked out of the hospital.
He still had,
and then
he had muscle definition.
Beth Frost and I mean, I was at the gym tonight and I was listening to Wherever We May Roam, or whatever that is, by Metallica, where Beth and I were doing this little doubles posing together up in Ottawa, Illinois. So yeah.
Interesting. And you guys, how did you guys finish in that competition?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of like everybody wins something. I mean,
that's nice. That's nice.
Yeah.
Good.
So I don't even remember. The only one I have still is the EIU. Sometimes I threw the other ones away actually not too long ago. So
time to move on.
Another interesting fact. Flora has produced 2 Mr. EIUs.
Ooh.
Phil Hurlman was the other one.
Oh,
Phil Herman was
Was he?
SIU. SIU.
Oh,
Yeah, I was
SIU.
gonna say, I was-
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
SIU.
Yeah.
I forgot he was SIU.
Don't mix up
Yeah.
the
Oh,
Man,
I
you
know.
messed me up.
I'm gonna
You
get
messed me up.
lambasted now. I'm gonna get
Who was it that
Some
there was
Bears
somebody
fan.
else? There's been some people from Florida that were in the competition. I can't even think of who it was now.
Yeah, that's right. But Phil was Eastern.
Probably from
That was
Clay
pretty-
City,
Southern.
someone from
Southern.
Clay
You were
City, I
Eastern.
bet.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I was
Yeah.
pretty sly because some of the women that wanted to do the competition, I would always help them with their posing.
Nice. It's a good in.
You know,
Uh-huh.
that was,
Yeah.
that was not bad.
Uh-huh.
That was
Yeah.
pretty smart.
Smooth. Yeah,
Yeah.
smooth. Uh-huh.
Hey, it didn't give me and sitting here by myself now, so I'm just like all the rest of you. Every relationship I've ever had has failed, so here I am. Cheers.
Cheers.
Salud.
Yeah, good. Hey, welcome to the club. Well, what advice would you have? Because we have a separate page that kind of helps to try to inspire people and working out and things like that. So maybe someone that's looking into doing something like that, or a competition, or just looking to get into weightlifting in general. What advice would you give them?
Oh man, I mean, consistency is the key. I mean,
Mhm.
and that's the whole thing. And knowing that those first couple of months almost are really, it's all neurological, just getting the body used to what it's doing. It's freaking out a little bit, and so you just going through the motions, getting that down, and then I was thinking tonight, I was in the gym and I see these people that they've been going to the gym for 5 years there, and I kind of go in spurts. I'm pretty consistent now, and I'm thinking, man, I walk in, I go in there, I'm 30 minutes, I'm hard as I can go for 30 minutes, and I'm out the door, and I'm watching these people, and they're still going, and they're looking worse and worse every time they go almost. And it's a matter of being smart about it. It's not a matter of being in there for 2 hours. It's a matter of going in there, being thoughtful with what you're doing and being consistent. But that consistency pays off. And then, as you know, the diet, that's the big thing. So, I've got to go down to the beach in a month, and I'm trying to get my beach body. So
yeah. And that's what I keep trying to help Dickie with, Colin Dickie. He can't get his diet right. He's looking a little rough. Delaney, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, Dickie works hard, but the diet's trash. So
No, it's not.
yeah.
It's not good.
It's terrible. So, and some people brought up some good points. A name that I had forgotten, but Kent Julius also,
Right.
I think
Yeah.
was, and then
Oh,
Rowdy
Kent-
Fothery, I believe.
Kent would have blown me away. Both those guys probably would have blown me away.
Kent Julius always did it with like Kiss makeup or something. Didn't he have Kiss music or Kiss
I just
makeup?
wanted I wanted
Yeah.
to knock him out. He was just shredded.
Oh my God!
Shredded.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
The competition I did in Florida, Kent won that one, and he was in phenomenal shape. I mean, like,
Yeah.
amazing.
Mhm.
Hey, I got third in my division, but there were 3 people, so I figured,
Oh, boy. So
That's
just
something-
don't even say the second part there. I got third in my
Yeah,
division.
just leave it like third. That's impressive. Nobody has to
Right.
know that. Nobody has to know.
Uh.
So, all right. So we got the Mr. EIU cover, which was awesome, and what an incredible thing to have done. But now let's get into the meat of the whole interview here. So you've been a medical consultant for the Colts for 16 years. Still going strong there, and I'm sure you got thousands of stories and things like that. But what exactly do you do then? Because, people hear medical consultant, physical therapy, all that, some people do surgeries and stuff. I don't think that's really your deal. So what exactly does your job consist of?
Hey, Chad,
Well,
before
so-
you get to that,
Yes.
could you just clarify, what was your degree? Did you have a physical therapy? Is that what you graduated?
No, my degree was exercise
Exercise
science,
phys-
and then I
exercise
studied
science,
out in Denver to do the
Okay.
muscle activation techniques. So,
Gotcha. Okay.
um,
That's what I thought.
so yeah, I'm kind of in a unique position because of that. So, I mean, sometimes with physical therapy, you kind of have a bias towards looking at symptoms, and you're only
Right.
treating symptoms. And kind of like I said with Cato, it's like I'm looking to see what's causing that pain, because something's always putting you in position to have pain. It's not, the pain doesn't just show up. So a lot of times one of my roles with, say, working with the athletes might be they have knee pain, and you look at the knee's a hinge joint. So it goes where the foot and the hip let it go. And so if you're not stable on both ends of that knee doesn't have a chance. And so when I'm with the team, one of the main things that I do is I'm out there 2 days a week. So a couple afternoons a week, and they'll have a list for me of players they want me to see. And so, maybe they say, okay, this guy's got a turf toe, or this guy's got, like a sports hernia type situation. And they want to get my assessment on it from a biomechanical standpoint, and see if there's anything that maybe is causing them to either improve slower than they would like, or just something that could speed it up in general, which is usually the case. I mean, the medical staff here is phenomenal. And they have a good understanding of what I do. We have a good relationship. So we work together pretty well. And so when I first started with the team, I would be out at the facility a couple of days a week. And then we brought it into my facility, and they'd send the players over, but it just wasn't quite as probably effective as we needed it to be, because, you'd say, all right, so-and-so is going to be there at 2:00, and then here's 2:30 and nobody's there yet. And so now we're back at the facility, and it's been pretty smooth. So we have a group of us. We've got a chiropractor that does ART, which is active release techniques. We have myself, and then we have a couple of massage therapists that work alongside of the physical therapist. So I think, we have a medical director, we have a head athletic trainer, have, I think, 3 full-time physical therapists, athletic trainers, and then they bring in every year like seasonal interns and things like that. So the medical staff ends up being pretty big, and then you've got somebody for every specialty. So you've got your knee guy, your shoulder guy, your hand guy, your concussion guy, your neurosurgeon, your dentist, your eye doctor. I mean, so they're covered from every different angle. So it's pretty interesting working with them. And then, a guy gets hurt on Sunday, and, they're going to have an MRI either that day or the next morning. So it's pretty quick. I mean, the guy stubbed their toe, it's pretty much an MRI. So kind of the way that works. So, yeah. So now in the off season, I've got a few guys that'll come in. The team will send over, but in the off season, I'll usually see them at my office. And especially now, even though I've been vaccinated, it's you still have to get tested to go in the building. And so it's a little bit more expensive to have me out, and a little more time consuming. So,
Well, and speaking of which, great segue. So you dealt with one hell of a year in terms of the NFL, and, they've gotten a lot of, praise for how that season was.
Oh, he froze up. So what he was saying was that they got a lot of praise for how that season was handled, and the NFL implemented a lot of things that was effective in the COVID tracing. So could you anything you could comment on as far as like your experience with how the NFL did the contact tracing and so forth to allow the season to happen, and what were some of the things that maybe the NFL was able to bring to light about COVID?
Yeah, I mean, the NFL, I mean, just what they're able to do. I mean, they've got some of the best and brightest minds working there. It's amazing. And, I know going into the season, everybody questioned whether or not the NFL was even going to happen, and didn't seem like they had a plan in place. But I know when I went out there the first time, it was like, all right, you got 21 days straight of COVID testing, and then every 3 weeks you got to get a blood draw to get the antibodies test. And I mean, I'm not a big needle fan. I got some tattoos, but I'm not a big fan of getting that needle stuck in me. So I'm thinking, man, is this even going to be worth it? And so after that, then we didn't have to do the antibody test, but it was 6 days a week that I was getting tested. And then, on days I was in the building, I would also get an additional test, which was a rapid test, just to make sure that, the test from the day before was still good. And so one thing that we did was it would be interesting. We'd all have to enter through one part of the building. And so, nobody is able to go in the building without going through the testing first. We all had, if I can find the camera, but we had these contact tracers, and I don't have one in there because the team has it, obviously, but these Connexons, and you slide them in and wear it on your wrist, and it flashes red. And so if you get near somebody, it would flash blue. And so that would indicate that, you're within 6. And then I think they moved it to 8 feet. Well, obviously with what I do, you kind of have to be within that, closer distance. And so we had, I think at the beginning it was, you couldn't be around anybody more than 15 minutes. And then it became 5 minutes. And then, you're wearing the N95s, the face shields. I mean, everything. It was a long season. We'll just say that. But, at the beginning, it was one of those things where I'm like, it was just awkward. And, I think the first couple of weeks, everybody's just kind of looking around and going, man, is this even worth it? But then by the time you kept going on and on and on, it was just, everybody kind of got into the normal flow. And, what was kind of cool is, like, at the Colts complex, they have a pond out by the facility that Irsay had stocked with fish, and they've got a par 3 golf course that he put in there. And so this year more than any was kind of like everybody was there for each other. And so I think it was kind of a neat season because, you know, they weren't out running around and they were spending time with each other. And so they would be, you know, you'd see some of them in their breaks out there fishing and some hitting golf balls. And I mean, so it was kind of a neat season from that perspective. I think it brought everybody closer together. So, and then the Bears made the playoffs, and I don't understand how that happened. I mean, 8-8, was that 8-8, and they're in the playoffs? Oh, sorry, I just something just slipped in there.
It happens. It happens.
Yeah. But anyhow, yeah, it was a cool season. So, trying to think of anything else that yeah, the contact tracer was the main thing in the testing. I mean, so I mean, the good thing for me was I knew all year where I stood with the virus. You know, so I go back to my office. I didn't have to worry about it. It was kind of a nice little bonus to be able to do that.
And it was amazing how well that was handled by the NFL, you know, in terms of travel and keeping, you know, I mean, yeah, there were some cases, you know, and whatnot, but overall, you know, it seemed like, yeah.
Oh,
well, you know,
yeah, and I think
the resources and the finances, there's no reason they shouldn't have done it like that.
Well, and I think they were smart.
Appropriately.
I think they were smart, and I don't know this for a fact. I didn't ever ask them, but I mean, I think they did a good job in saying it was COVID related or a COVID contact. They didn't. I think sometimes they didn't always tell you if a guy had it. They kind of said that they maybe COVID close contact or whatever, and so they didn't freak everybody out as much. But they, I mean, because of these contact tracers. I mean, if somebody tested positive, I mean, they'd be able to go into their system and say, okay, he spent time around these 5 people. They could pull them aside, test them right away because they had everything right there. I mean, so you could do it pretty well. I thought it was interesting, and that's how they found out at the beginning of the season. They had all the false positives because it was 4 people from 4 different parts of the building that had it, that had no interaction with anybody whatsoever. And so that's when they got suspicious that those were false positives, and it ended up being an issue with the lab. So
wow,
interesting. Wow,
very, very interesting.
Yeah, like
but they get so used to doing all these, you know, Microsoft team meetings that they could shut the facility down and seamlessly flow into doing the meetings from wherever they were at, which was kind of cool.
So adaptability was definitely key in this past year.
Yeah, and I mean, we have a guy named Dave Hammer who's a head trainer, and I mean, the man deserved. I mean, he makes money, but he deserved 3 times what he got this year. I mean, because those results would come in at say 3 a.m, and you know, if somebody's positive, he's contacted people and moving right then and there, and so it was pretty impressive to watch.
Wow.
So
wow. Well, in terms of, you know, from when you started with the Colts until now and you know, being a medical consultant, how have things changed over the last 16 years in terms of how you treat people? I mean, has there been a lot of change, or do you just stick with the old tried and true methods?
Yeah, I mean, this definitely changed a lot from the old, just, you know, ice and rest type thing. I mean, the stuff they're able to do just blows my mind. See a guy get an ankle sprain and play the next week, or, you know, we had a guy this year broke his thumb and, you know, breaks his thumb on a Sunday and had surgery on Monday and played the next weekend. And then, you know, a few weeks later gets the pin taken out on a Monday and plays the next weekend. I mean, it's just crazy. But I mean, you know, they're able to cast you right away. They're able to, you know, they can go out to practice, cast a new cast before they go out, take it off after. I mean, what they can do is pretty cool. So, yeah, they can. I don't want to say they can experiment with the body, but they've got it down to such a good science, and those guys are so used to working with that, you know, those specific injuries and that kind of thing. And you got the best medical doctors there. So, I mean, things have changed a lot from the perspective of guys like myself from the outside coming in, them being open to our thoughts and our you know, because used to the old days that would never happen. I mean, and with a lot of teams that would never happen. The Colts just happen to be very open-minded and a little more progressive, and you know, the team. I mean, the Ursays are great people, and they really take care of their, you know, their workers, and it's just been interesting. They treat the guys like men. That's why, you know, the players that come here will always comment about how classy the organization is, which has been cool. And, you know, it definitely is. Ballard's unbelievable, the GM. I mean,
yeah, he's doing a hell of a job. They've built quite the team there. Yeah.
He's great guy, great family, and man, just intense, great football mind, treats the guys like men. I mean, they love him. So, and Frank Reich's the same way. The guys would run through a wall for him.
Right.
I mean, just doesn't have to yell and scream. I mean, he's intense, but the guys just, they respond to him. So
Kerry Martin, like,
yeah. They just respect him. I mean, it's pretty cool. So,
absolutely.
And that's why, I mean, that's why I feel like you could bring in anybody to the organization, and you know, I'm not worried about these guys going off, you know, getting in trouble or that kind of thing, because they've just got such good leadership. You know what I mean? And so it's not like that with every team, for sure.
Absolutely. Chad, can you talk a little bit about kind of like what an NFL player goes through? You know, a lot of people see, you know, professional athletes as spoiled rotten. They make a lot of money. They're playing a game, big deal. But in terms of trying to take care of their bodies, what they put their bodies through, and then to be able to play week after week after week. Some of these NFL players are playing 20 games or better, you know, where it's just a car wreck after a car wreck 50 or 60 times a game, and then still able to perform every week. What does that entail? How are they able to do that?
I mean, it's a full-time job. I mean, I think that a lot of people don't realize what the players put in. I mean, they think it's, you know, their families, oh, you just play on Sunday. Well, I mean, it's pretty much, you know, that may be, you know, just treatment or something on Monday and some film, and then Tuesday might be their off day. And then, you know, it's 8 to 5 on Wednesday and 8 to 5 on Thursday or longer. And then Friday's a half day, and Saturday's a half day, and Sunday's a game. And, you know, the guys get to the stadium 3 hours or 4 hours before the game. And, you know, their treatments are, you know, they have blocked off time for treatments, and guys will get extra treatment. But it's nonstop. I think one of the most interesting things is seeing like guys on the practice squad and what they go through. And, you know, those are guys that I always feel for, because, you know, in college they're studs, and then they come here or wherever, and they're on a practice squad, and, you know, half of them are living in a hotel that we have, that the team works with, that, you know, they're just living in the hotel and then waiting for, well, you know, hopefully they're going to make it onto the active roster, or they, you know, they're on the practice squad, and then 2 days later they're released, and then they're back. And I mean, it's really hard on those guys. And, so I always like those guys, just because I know how much they put in, and it's not as glamorous as what it would seem. You know, you get the guys at the very top making all the money, that their jobs are pretty secure. And, but, you know, at the end of the day, the guys are just, most of them are just happy to be there. You know, occasionally you'll run into a guy who's, you know, really, really upset not being on the active roster. But it's pretty cool just to see, you know, those guys when they do get their opportunity, because, you know, I don't know what they make, $5,000 a week, I think, which is still a lot of money. But I mean, you know, when you're talking 16 weeks throughout a season, I mean, that's, what is that, $80,000? That's not a lot. You know, and so to see those guys get called up, and now they're making, say, $50,000 for the game versus $5,000 for the week, you know, it's a big thing for them. So that's probably the most interesting part as far as that's concerned. So
wow.
I'd like to get called up for a couple games.
I'd take a shot for that.
Dang,
I was
thinking,
I was actually asking if I could take a buyout this year, you know, because that would have been a heck of a lot more money. But.
Absolutely.
Right. Now, you know, you've been doing this for a long time, and you obviously seen the greatness that was Peyton Manning. But would you say that the greatest thing about Peyton Manning was just the strength of his neck to be able to keep that giant head, you know, and forehead? I mean, was that impressive or what?
I was a little hurt when I saw that. Peyton was, I'll tell you what, we were down at first of all, one of the funniest things so we had a meeting before we went down to the Super Bowl, because I flew down with them to the game. And so we had a meeting with everybody that was flying together. And so Bill Polian's up there leading a meeting, and he's saying, all right, when everybody's going to get 2 rooms down here at the Super Bowl, and, you know, you can have one for you and your wife, and you can have one for your family. You know, those rooms are at a premium. And so Peyton stands up and he says, all right, I got, in the middle of Bill speaking, he was like, all right, everybody, I'm thinking we should just have players in the players room. And so, Bill keeps talking and everybody's kind of sitting there, and then Peyton stands up again. He said, "Nope, I've made up my mind. Nobody but players in the players room." And Napoleon says, "All right, nobody but players in the players room." And of course, you hear some grumbling, but I mean, it's probably one of the smartest moves, just because Peyton being a leader, especially after Mike Vanderjagt kind of said he was not a leader after he kicked
liquored up
kicker.
Sideways. Yeah.
Yeah. And I could say that I didn't work with the team when Vanderjagt was there, so I can talk about him.
Yeah. So did you get to be around Peyton much or whatever? Because they talk about just how intelligent he was, also how funny he was.
He was sharp, but he studied like crazy. I mean, you always saw him with the playbook. I mean, at the Super Bowl, I mean, we were at the Marriott Harbor Beach down in Fort Lauderdale, and so in one of the conference rooms, they had like a third of or fourth of the conference room was set up into a treatment room. And then the other part was like a lunchroom, and there was a big curtain dividing. And so people were sitting over on the other side eating, watching ESPN in the morning, and Peyton's sitting there getting treatment, and he's studying this playbook. And he tells one of the interns, he's like, go turn that TV off over there, because it was distracting him. And of course, that made him real popular with all the other guys. But that was just Peyton. And so, you felt like you were going to win. And even when, what was that, Devin Lester? What was his name? That guy that ran the ball back.
Something like that.
Yeah, I never felt like we were going to lose that game. I mean, it was just always just the way they were prepared for it. And so that was pretty cool. And there was something else I was going to say about Peyton. I mean, no, when he would tell a story, I mean, guys just gathered around. He could talk for, he could tell a story. And so he would be, he'd be funny. I mean, I'd be treating it in one of the rooms, and he had a bathroom in it because it was like a medical room, and he'd come in and act like he was going to come use the restroom when I was treating, just to kind of mess with me. But anyhow, he ended up out in Denver, and this was in Sports Illustrated, but the guy who developed what I do ended up probably being a big reason why was in Denver, just doing MAT with him. And after he had the neck surgery and all of that. So I connected Greg out in Denver with Peyton, and they started working together. And so that was pretty cool. But he was just, I always look when at the guys on the side, the quarterbacks on the sideline, the guys that are sitting there studying are like Brady and Manning, and the guys that are the best ones are always studying on the sidelines. And so that's kind of what you got to have. So that's a plug for Michigan, I guess.
Yeah, well, I you know what, Delaney, I was too busy playing to be worried about studying. I mean, come on.
Sam didn't have an iPad to study, did he?
Right, yeah, it was just like printed, like if Dale Hinton would wad up a play and throw it down to you, that's what you looked at back then. So
the guys that are doing the most studying were probably like Rex Grossman. What's that other guy's name? I can't think of his name.
Tim. Careful, Chad. Let's not get off on a bad foot here. Yeah. So you've been around some great quarterbacks, obviously. Peyton Manning, then Andrew Luck. How would you compare or contrast those two in your time of being around them?
I mean, I don't know. I don't think you compare.
Yeah,
as people. I mean, we know what they look like as quarterbacks. What are they like as people?
Right, just as people in general. Yeah.
No, I mean, I think they're both. I mean, you try to imagine. I mean, Peyton has a way of walking in a room and you feel like you should put your head down, just because. I mean, I think it's because he can't go anywhere without being recognized. I mean, everywhere he goes, everybody wants a piece of him. So he'll kind of put his head down and walk in just to kind of have a little quiet. I actually was down at St. Elmo one time in Indianapolis, and his dad was sitting there at the bar by himself, and I went up and sat and talked to him for probably about an hour and a half. And he knew Greg out in Denver. He knew, and obviously he knows his son, but we had a good conversation. He was just a good old boy to talk to, but Peyton's kind of the same way. He could tell the story like no other. And Luck, I think I didn't know Luck as well. I was around him a little bit, but I didn't. He was more of I would say more of an intellectual guy, almost outside of football. I mean, I remember maybe.
Yeah.
I mean,
Stanford versus Tennessee.
Well, I mean, he built a house in Indianapolis. He and his wife designed it. I mean, they're architects, and so. Yeah, I mean, and his favorite place, I mean, there was a place called Books and Brews. He and Anthony Costanzo would go, and that's where they'd hang out, just bookstore.
Nerd. What a nerd. Yeah.
Well,
I mean, sounds perfect to me. I don't know what's well,
and I mean, probably about a week before he retired, I was out there at training camp up in Westfield, and Luck was, talking to this therapist he had in from, I don't know, another country, and he was just talking about the Tattooist of Auschwitz book he was reading. I mean, that's all he was. I mean, so. And then I tried to pick the book up and read it, and I realized I went to Eastern Illinois, and I just set it down. I couldn't.
Eastern's a Stanford of the Midwest, I thought.
Well, that's what I have. That's what I tell Anthony Walker, who's a Northwestern guy. I said, if I couldn't have got into if I couldn't have gone into Eastern, I was probably going to go to Northwestern.
Very similar. Very similar. Right? Yeah. Hey, you know what though? When those book nerds start in, Graham, all you got to do is be like, "But can you pose? Do you know how to hold a pose?" Right. I mean, come on. I bet you they don't.
Yeah.
I bet you
and then they can hold up some money like this, and
right.
I can't.
But do you have this trophy?
Yeah.
For sure. So off of NFL a little bit, something that I just wanted to pick your brain about, and just your thoughts in general. Obviously, Tiger Woods had a terrible car accident. They say he shattered his ankle, compound fractures in a leg and all that. I don't know that you work with a lot of golfers or anything like that, but what do you think his road to recovery is going to be like? Will it be possible for him to be able to play at the level that he, could get to again? Or is it just a very long road that may not end well? What do you think?
I mean, I'd be shocked if he plays again at any level. I mean, not that he can't, but I mean, when you're talking about, when you go into your backswing, you're going into supination and pronation, and then you shift back to supination and pronation. That's a pretty tough one to do. The Ted Fib break, I've worked with several of those with players. And I mean, those are tough. Those are tough because you get swelling in there that it's hard to get out of there, and it just restricts movement. And so, and I'd be shocked if the back stuff that he had going on didn't become much worse after that too. I mean, there's other stuff I'm sure going on that they haven't talked about, but I can't imagine the back, having had surgery not too long ago, could come out of that without being.
I can't wait until he wins the Masters in about 3 years and they play this on SportsCenter. Well, Chad Graham said.
Yeah, look.
Yeah, well, number one, I don't think anybody cares what I say.
Well, you're in good company then.
I mean, I'd just be shocked. I mean, there's no doubt he'll work his tail off, but man, I just know the nature of that. And just I don't know. That's a tough injury.
The nature of
that.
that.
Have a tough time walking again, let alone
Right.
Yeah, he'll walk. That won't. The walking won't be a problem, but I just think getting that. I mean, it's real tough. I worked on somebody with the same type of injury this morning. It's tough to get that, and that his has been a while. He's had his surgery, and you get that inflammation completely out of there is tough. So, I mean, he'll have the best in the world working on it.
I don't think he's going to play the Masters. Is that fair?
Well, yeah, I'm going to say the broken thumb guy he's talking about, Graham. I don't see Tiger making the Masters at this point. Yeah,
I'd be shocked.
Yeah.
You add the lack of ability at the ankle joint, and then the fact that he's got the back issues too. And I mean, he's losing all kinds of,
Well, and would you say he's probably got multiple surgeries coming up ahead of him? I mean, you don't know the full extent, but there was a rod placed in there as well that he may have to get removed later.
I don't know if they'll have to take it out or if they leave it in there. I mean, my guess is he's probably not done. But yeah, I mean, I know some people they leave them in, some people they take them out. So it just depends.
And again, he's not a spring chicken either. I mean, let's face it, he's older than us, Chad. I mean, he's old.
Well, he's not older than me, but thanks a lot.
He's 44.
He's 45.
I think he's
45.
45. Okay, I'm still 44. Same age as Lane. So, okay. Yeah. But anyway, again,
he just doesn't have as much gray hair as some of.
No, well, this is.
Well, if I grew this out, if I could grow it out, I'm hoping when I grow up I can, but it would be all gray.
Yeah,
that's all right. It's distinguished. This keeps
me from getting carded.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, Lane, I'd like to see you clean shaven again. Just send me that Campbell Soup Kid baby face.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Yeah,
yep.
you do that. I'll grow out a Joe Dirt Clay City white trash beard. If you do that.
Did you just dig on Clay City?
Oh, we do that all the time. Welcome to the show.
hit.
Yeah, welcome to the show. That's your first Clay City reference. And speaking of which, don't forget to contact North Wayne Insurance. Bill Atwood, he's our sponsor of the show. I'm sure he can help people in Clay City as well. But for some reason, he sticks with the show. But in saying that, guys, what other questions do we have for Chad? Anything else you can think of? Any questions at home as well?
I have one that you may not want to answer or can answer. Obviously, you've met a lot of people, Chad. A lot of them are good. Probably most of them are good. And I doubt you'll want to say any particular names, but there had to have been a few real douchebags that you could share a story or so without.
Or maybe on the alternative, you could say, "Hey, who's your favorite athlete? Who's a guy that was really cool?"
How about this? I'll just tell you a story of an athlete. I won't tell you who he played for and where he went to college. But
tell me you went to Ohio State, though. Tell me that one.
I will say it was a college in Florida, but it wasn't Florida.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And so he had asked me, this was back when Hillary Clinton was running the first time. And he said, so if Hillary becomes president, would she be the first female president? And I thought he was kidding at first. And then I realized that he went to Florida State. And
yeah, right. Yes. Right. There you go.
Perfect.
So, yeah, I mean, I can't believe he asked me that, but he did. And I felt bad.
Right.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Kind of.
I actually had a girl who I worked with who played soccer at Florida State, and she was like, I don't know, she was named sexiest athlete.
Yeah.
College athlete.
Yeah.
And this is a true story actually. And they swear to me when she went there and they filled out their application, it said, this is what your requirements are unless you are an exceptional athlete. I don't know if that's true or not.
Wow.
I mean, they haven't had a whole lot of exceptional athletes lately, right?
Yeah.
They aren't stealing like chicken and like
shoes and crab legs and things like that. Yeah.
All the NFL guys are from Miami. I'll be like, where are you from? Oh,
yep.
Miami.
Miami.
Like,
Miami.
Crap, man.
Yeah. It's
Frank
unreal.
Gore.
Yep.
Frank Gore.
Well, and actually, Jeff Fehrenbacher brought up Frank Gore as well. He goes, "What made him so durable for decades? What just some people built different or what?"
How's he
Frank,
he's still playing.
Frank,
68 years old.
I'd happily talk about Frank. Frank was my favorite. I'd go to Frank's house a couple days a week, and I mean, I love Frank. The dude was just tough. Like if I had to take anybody to a fight, that's who I'd take. I mean, that man. I think part of it was just the way he grew up. I mean, I think his I don't know the whole story, but he had a rough situation. He and A-Rod actually grew up in the same boys club together, which is kind of crazy in Miami.
Athletes.
But Frank was, at the time he had a finger that was kind of pointed a different direction because it was broken. Just trying not to disclose because I don't know if he's still playing. But anyhow, his fingers pointed different, and he played the entire season that way. And I'm like, holy crap, man! And he just called me I was walking around the mall one afternoon, and he called me. He's like, man, I don't think I can see you today. I messed my finger up. And I'm like, your finger's already messed up. And he's like, no, it's bad this time. And so, I mean, I've never seen a finger like it. He's going to be like Ronnie Lott or whatever, probably 4 fingers on one of his hands by the time he's done. Mm-hmm. But the dude was just tough. I mean, nothing. I mean, you never heard him complain. If I had a finger like that, I'd have walked around and I'd showed everybody.
Absolutely.
I mean, this guy just never said a word about it. Just went out there. Everybody loved Frank. I love Frank. I mean, and Frank would be, I'd be working with him and talking to him, and he'd be like, watch this. And he'd call Drew Rosenhaus, and they'd be on speakerphone, and I'd be sitting there listening to him. And then he'd call, oh man, there were so many of them. It was interesting just to listen to these guys and Frank talk. And I mean, everybody loved Frank. Everybody respected Frank. So it's a hard worker.
And like you said, that's one bad dude right there. That's a guy you definitely want on your side for sure. So yeah,
I love Frank.
Right. So what you're saying is you could probably hook us up and he could be on the show is what you're saying. You guys are that tight.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I could text him and ask him, but
just throw it out there, Chad. I mean, what the hell? What can it hurt? Yeah. Hey, there's these 3 idiots that get a whopping 1,000 views a week. Join us. Yeah,
please.
So
I don't know
anyway.
if he's playing. I don't know if he's playing this next year or not. I'd like to see him. I mean, they're gonna have to drag him out.
Yeah.
To drag him out.
Yeah. Well, the guy just keeps going. It's unreal. I mean, it's just unreal.
He's productive.
So
every year he's productive.
Every year. Yep. Guaranteed.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's amazing because I'm sitting there and I'd be talking to him and he'd be like, "Oh, that running back's in the wrong system," and he'd explain why. I mean, he could just see things that you and I couldn't see. Yeah. Oh, well, he was just a bright football guy. I mean, that was his thing. I mean, this was well documented. I mean, he's severely dyslexic, so he doesn't text much, so he would call instead of text. And so, and in fact, they did a story in the Indianapolis Star. I mean, he went through school. He went through school in special ed because he was so dyslexic. And so just seeing what he's overcome to get to where he had, I mean, just amazing. So
it makes you wonder how he's able to get all the plays and get that down being dyslexic. I mean, just verbally, I guess.
I mean,
yeah.
How many times you go X, Y banana if he's running?
Yeah, right. It's like, how's he keep that straight?
Banana.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I mean, it's impressive. So
very well, for sure. Well, Chad, thanks again for making the time. This was fantastic. A lot of information all night. I'm sure you got stories upon stories, but thank you again for making the time. And you're welcome back anytime, of course. We love having you on. It's great to see you doing so well. And, once again, small town boy doing well. So that's good to see. And so thank you again. And as we haven't done this a little bit, but we'll do it this week. Delaney, your fresh crack of the week. What bourbon you got tonight? What can you tell us about it?
Well, it's not a crack so much as it's been cracked before. This is Larceny Barrel Proof. Batch
nice
C1920. It's good stuff. Proof 122. Very good. I like a good weeder anyway, so this is a good barrel proof weeder. Can't beat that. It's getting kind of low though, so I'm going to have to start searching for another one. That's a hard one to find.
I guess so. Graham, are you a bourbon fan?
I'm not a bourbon. I'm gluten free.
Oh boy, here we go. Jesus.
So
here we go.
Maybe a Tito's tonic, but I have a sensitivity to it. So
I see. Boy, I tell you. Sensitivity. Jesus. Mr. EIU's got a sensitivity. I tell you what. I don't know what's happening with this world. Yeah.
My back's getting hot from that fire.
Oh, it's cozy. Yeah, warm. Yeah.
Hang in there. Almost done.
We're almost there. That's right. And Lane Pie, do you have some positivity for us this week? You started the show very positive, but what do you got to close with this week?
I love this right here. It's a little bit a play on the Michigan thing, but John Harbaugh quietly pays the bill for everyone eating at the famous Jimmy's famous seafood in Baltimore. Didn't even make a big deal out of it. Just kind of like he was there. Some people saw him were there. He ate, and as he was leaving, he paid for everybody else's bill. So I mean, a good guy, and
good guy.
Nice kind of thing. You don't get to hear enough of. One last shout out, a follower from behind the mic show, and also from Build the Machine, Misty Fragasta. If I said her name wrong, I apologize. Finishes her first half marathon. So kudos out to her. I hate even driving a half marathon, let alone running one. So
oh my God, can't even imagine. Yeah. Graham, you ever get into any running? I know you did a lot of lifting to stay in shape. Were you ever big into running?
I would rather run a fever, my friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same.
Not a runner. Yeah.
Awful.
What a line.
Yeah.
I'm gonna steal that next time.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Lane, that was not a good thing. And if it would have made that thing a little bit better if John Harbaugh paid his brother's buyout for Michigan.
You really want to be charitable. Help us out
been
here.
Happy. That's happy. That's a fresh crack worthy there. For
sure. And before I get into my dumbass criminal of the week that we always do, I would be wrong to not mention this, that the Florida Gators beat the University of Kentucky in basketball this week. You hate to see it. A tradition unlike any others. UK continues to suck. You can't spell suck without UK. And that, of course, leads us into, if you're looking for a great podcast, don't forget to check out J.R. Lewis's View from the Bench, because that was always his view in high school. That's why he's so knowledgeable on sports topics. So check him out every week as a big UK fan that he is. And then we'll close with, of course, our dumbass criminal of the week. The headline, toothless woman arrested after officers find her dentures inside the stolen car.
This gotta
So
be
a
in
toothless
Florida,
woman has been taken into custody by Florida police. Of course, it's always Florida.
of
You can
course.
always find them
Florida,
there. Yeah, right. Police, after her dentures were found inside a stolen car, authorities said. Lake County Sheriff's deputies were responding to reports of a suspicious person trying to break into homes when they encountered 31-year-old Lindsay Jean Stanley McShane. Good God. According to an arrest affidavit, she was barefooted and didn't have any teeth. She said she didn't know where they were. I guess that means both the shoes and the dentures. Deputies noticed a car nearby with its doors open and a key in the ignition. A set of dentures and a pair of pink tennis shoes were inside, deputies said. McShane was screaming and talking to herself, but acknowledged both items belonged to her. The car, a Kia, had been reported stolen in Marion County and run out of gas, authorities said. McShane denied stealing the vehicle, saying she had only been a passenger in the car and didn't know who was behind the wheel. So,
Oh my God.
yeah, so she was taken in to a nearby hospital for treatment. Probably a great idea of suspected drug overdose, authorities said, and was then transported to Lake County Jail, where she remains in lieu of $10,000 bail. So don't forget, folks.
You
Just
got to be doing some serious drugs. If
Bath salts or something. Yeah, when you forget your teeth, I mean, I tell you what.
Shoes, like last name McShane. That's a good Irish white trash Florida. That's like the Onion article you just read or something.
That's right, and it brings me back to the story when I was a kid. If you guys remember, my dad and several people had a kind of like it started out as a motorcycle club, but then it's just more of just like a social type club, right? And it was just an excuse for people to get down there, play horseshoes, drink, things like that, right? So we're down there and it's summertime. I mean, it's warm, right? People playing horseshoes, drinking, all that stuff. And hell, I was 14, 15 at the time, just sitting there watching, right? And there was a couple there. One of them was Tommy Holland. If you remember him, they used to call him Cousin It. He's passed away several years ago, but Cousin It, if you remember him, had long hair, all that, right?
I didn't know he had a real name. That was his name, Cousin It.
Yeah, Tommy Holland. That's right. Yeah, Tommy Holland. But oh, good, I got J.R. Lewis's attention. J.R. Lewis said, "Graham, it's great to see you and hear you. Sammy, not so much." So you're welcome, J.R. I'm glad I can always please you every week.
We got the viewer. I don't care. We got his viewership. That's something.
That's right. Thank you, J.R., for tuning in. Yep, appreciate the click. But anyway, so Tommy Holland, Cousin It, he always had a cold Bush beer in his hand. That's his cigarette in the other. That's just the way it was. And his woman, Mona, we used to call her Mona, whatever. Well, she had false teeth, right? So, but great people, we always laugh and hilarious, right? So anyway, they've been drinking all day, and I mean all day, right? And it's hot, everybody's sweating, just the way it is. And Tommy said, "Hey, Mo, throw me a beer." She's sitting on a 5-gallon bucket that had a lid on it with beers in it, right? Well, she had been drinking hard all day, right? She gets up to get the beer and loses her balance and goes down and bang, hits the ground. And when she hit the ground, her false teeth shot out and they're rolling in the dirt, right? So mind you, with the saliva and all that, it's rolled in the dirt. Now it's mud on those, right? So she's crawled over. And I mean, of course, me, I'm crying because there she is rolled on the ground, whatever. And of course, Cousin It had a laugh that, oh my God, because of the smoker and all that, he'd be like, ah! And I mean, he's getting down. Everybody's just crying, laughing. She crawls over, grabs the teeth, the false teeth, doesn't rinse them off, just slaps them right back in, mud and all. And I'm like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever. So just a false teeth story. Who doesn't have one of those, right? So anyway, folks, thanks to everybody for watching. We appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed it. Chad, thank you again for making the time. Great interview. Bill Atwood, thanks for sponsoring again, as always. North Wayne Insurance, make sure and contact him. And he's a good dude as well. He backs it up all the time. So anything else, boys, before we call it a night?
That's
Everyone
a
have a
show.
great week.
Thanks, Chad, for
Yes,
joining
thank you,
us.
Chad.
You're welcome.
We really appreciate you
your
joining us.
insight and fun stories you got.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
good to see you guys.
Absolutely.
Oh,
that's good timing.
it's perfect timing. So he just sent the finger. So he's like, "Big Daddy, take us home." So that's what we're going to do. Everybody have a great week. Again, thank you, Chad, Delaney, Sam.
You're welcome.
Everyone have a great week. Bye.
All right. See